Do you want to see the guy fart during Oppenheimer? I know you've seen it. I love it. Sounds like a small screening, though. Is this in like a full-on...
Oh, probably not IMAX.
The video is... not IMAX. The video is I farted during Oppenheimer. If you're watching the live stream, I'll show it to you. It's just a clip of a guy at a very dramatic point where they're going to... You said when they're going to set off the nuclear bomb for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, does that ruin the dramatic effect of the movie?
Well, you know the bomb works.
You do know the bomb works. So at that point, you're only adding to it. You're not really subtracting.
The only thing I can have that kind of relates to that was when I went to go see Paranormal Activity. And there was a hood mom and her daughter in the theater. And right before anything scary would happen, she would scream before. And everyone's... The first time it was
What, the kid or the mom?
The mom.
Yeah.
The mom was like, I pay my money like everybody else. People were like revolting against her by the end of the end of the movie. But the very first time she did it, when something like scary would happen, right before you like the music ends, she'd be like, ah!
Well, how would she pre-scream?
She would just, like, I don't know how she knew. I don't know if she saw it before, but right before something scary would happen, like I forget, like Paranormal Activity, if the girl was like walking up the steps or going towards the camera, she would scream automatically, and everyone would just like jump up, and then something would happen.
I see.
And so it was funny the first time because everyone was like, okay, yeah, we're probably a little too tense. She got us, but then she kept doing it. And someone was like, you're not funny. He got pissed. And she's like, I pay my money like everybody else. She's like, I got to. I'm like, why does...
Was it a black theater, or she was pissing just like a mixed group of people off?
It was a mixed group of people.
I see.
Because, I was there with my mom, and then there was like a bunch of...
You and your mom went to see Paranormal Activity. One of the more recent ones, or this was back like at the beginning of the...
Years. Probably like the first one, when everyone was freaking out. That's
a good one.
I think that's why she went to like... hype it up, I guess, because the very first one was where it was so scary, everyone was passing out. And so I think she was just playing off of that.
They dropped the trailer today for the Exorcist reboot.
Oh, boy.
It's called Exorcist Believer. And...
It's going to be a stinker.
I hope...
Are they having Smash Mouth through the cover of I'm a Believer by the Monkees for the soundtrack?
It's The Exorcist!
And I'm a believer!
Somebody! No, Ellen Burstyn is in it.
She once possessed me.
Yeah, she plays Chris McNeil, so they kind of go back to that. But this time it's two young girls who get possessed. A black one and a white one. Lamar Odom, who got famous from Hamilton. He's done things since then, but he's the main guy. And
Isn't it Leslie Odom?
Oh, I'm sorry. What did Lamar Odom?
I was going to say, did he pass out?
He's asleep on the bed the whole time.
I just want to go home. Yeah, Leslie Odom. Thank you.
Just close the show, Alan. Let's just go home.
Come on, Lamar.
All right, everybody.
You don't have time to be possessed.
Right.
It's going to play on the Kardashians.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks, everybody, for all of us here at Leslie Odom. You're absolutely correct. Now, I would love to see the Exorcist reboot with Lamar Odom. Would very much like to see that. But now they dropped the trailer, and it's you're never going to outdo. That's one of those movies people go, why? And somebody else says, why not? It's not the first time that they've done, follow-ups to The Exorcist, but it's usually been part of that whole lore from the first movie. And the connective tissue in this new one is having Ellen Burstyn come back because the guy goes, I heard you have experience with this. And then she's like, I more than anyone should have. Whatever. Mm-hmm. It's fine. It'll be fine. But it's amazing to me. Poundcake talks about going to see Paranormal Activity. It's amazing to me what horror movies people will bring their little kids to because they want to go to the movies and they don't want to pay for a sitter. So people will just bring little kids to movies. And so if the kid is not, a kid is small enough, they're barely aware of what's going on. It's not like they are even aware necessarily that it's a scary movie, but they're yelling like a little kid. So it's irrespective of the movie. It's just really annoying because those kinds of movies, you want the dead silence of a movie theater in something like that without a kid screaming. Gwen and I used to go to like a Tuesday. There was a Cineplex near us in Chicago that was like dollar movies on Tuesdays. We had no money. We'd go to the movies for like $1. Your ticket was $1. The popcorn was $1, And so obviously everybody would go to the cheapie show, bringing their little kids on a Tuesday afternoon or whatever. And we went to go see, it was years ago, they rebooted My Bloody Valentine. It was a terrible movie, but we didn't have anything to do. And we're like, let's go to the movie. And this woman in front of us brought like 3 little kids. It's her and then like a 6-year-old, a 5-year-old, like the 3 kids very close in age, seemingly. Not one of them over 10. And they're screaming through the whole thing. And we're like, all right, like, why would you bring your little kid to a movie like this?
A lot of bad parents out there. That's all.
Well, again, listen, I get the notion of wanting to go to the movies and only wanting to pay $1 for it, but 2 Girls, One Exorcist. That they could have called it that. Some people are already pissing on it because it's David Gordon Green and Danny McBride. Danny McBride's been dipping his toe into writing, like he wrote the Halloween reboot or the continue, whatever that last one was, and David Gordon Green directed it, and he directed this one. But I mean, Danny McBride was in one of those Alien movies, and he's a guy that does more than one thing. But people who are big fans of horror movies, I don't know who they expected would do it. But some people are getting pre-upset because that's fun to do. Alan, my parents took me to the movies when I was a kid because they knew I would fall asleep.
Not during a horror movie.
Not during a horror movie when the crowd,
and
this person's like slept through Grease and Tootsie. No, listen, my parents did the same thing. Took us to the drive-in. You go to the drive-in in your pajamas because you're going to fall asleep. Like I remember going to the drive-in, I saw Blade Runner, but I didn't fall asleep. I mean, I was like 10. But when I was little, I remember my parents going to the drive-in and we were in the back. We had a Pinto wagon. We were in the back and we'd fall asleep. My dad would make like a paper grocery bag of popcorn and we'd go to the drive-in. My parents wanted to see The Sting. And that was out and we were in the back, falling asleep. But in an indoor movie where, people are going to be screaming because it's bloody and it's a horror movie and you don't put kids in there. Hey, John.
Yes.
What's up?
No, the worst example I can think of is that Hannibal Lecter movie, the second one, Hannibal.
I love that movie.
When they were cutting open Ray Liotta's skull
and feeding it to him,
the brain, there were kids in that theater, and probably about a month or 2 after that, the Cinemark chain of movie theaters, they rolled out a whole new policy about bringing underage kids to R-rated movies. They said, no, they cut it off. They said it's not happening anymore. That was the worst example of that I've ever seen.
Because they were flipping out at that scene?
Well, everybody is screaming and flipping out. And, say what you want about, a kid not being able to follow most of that movie. I think they could follow the fact that this guy's skull has been sawed off. There's blood dripping out of it, and they're cutting the brains out and having a gourmet meal. I think any kid, maybe 4 or 5 or up, is going to be like, "Oh, that's not right. That's not right."
Yeah, because they were like sautéing his medulla oblongata or whatever in that movie. Right?
I think the medulla oblongata is in the back of the neck.
Yeah, well, the cerebral cortex,
frontal lobe,
frontal lobe, whatever it is. I don't know.
Well, the one, all the pain centers, all the ones that, he was all doped up, and then they basically lobotomized him, and he became dumber as the meal went on.
Right.
But that was just crazy, because all these people are like, they're screaming, they're like, nobody, I mean, it was bad. I just felt, I'm looking at this guy with this kid, I'm thinking, man, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, well, maybe they didn't. Even if you didn't know what was in it, it's a sequel to Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, yeah.
They had a
right.
dude, Silence of the Lambs, they had a dude, one of the cops hanging from the cage with his innards cut out and the whole thing. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you,
yeah.
John. I appreciate it. Yeah, I thought Hannibal was underrated.
I liked it.
I mean, everybody involved was really good, but
never
everybody
saw
was.
it.
You didn't see it?
No, I didn't care.
I
That's
liked
the
it.
one where he cuts his face off and feeds it to the dogs, right? He gets the guy high on poppers or whatever.
Well, Mason Verger is like this character where they fed him to the pigs, but his face got.
No, that's how his face got screwed up. Is him and Hannibal were having like a gay experience, and Hannibal drugged him and made him cut his own face off.
Oh boy!
And then fed it to dogs.
He was the only guy who had survived Hannibal
Yes,
Lecter.
that's
Yeah,
what it was.
Right.
That's why he wanted him to die or whatever.
See, I love the Hannibal TV show. I love that show.
Right, where he's just living his life. He's got his quirky neighbor, and he's always tripping over an ottoman.
Yes, it was the Hannibal show.
Yeah.
Yep. But I mean, it was because Julianne Moore replaced Jodie Foster, and but I liked it. I thought, I don't know, it was all right.
We had that one on VHS. I've seen that movie. I've probably seen that movie at least 10 times.
I thought it was good.
They ripped that guy's they cut his stomach open and pushed him over the balcony.
Yeah.
All his innards
Yup.
fall out.
All fall out.
Maybe this is why I don't like horror movies.
I mean, it was
saw
a
too many
hit.
of them.
Made a ton of money. People were just like, "It's no Silence of the Lambs." Like, well, Silence of the Lambs won Best Picture that year. I mean, you were never gonna live up to Silence of the Lambs, but as its own movie, I thought it was real good. Ridley Scott directed it. I liked it. Hey, Jake.
Hey, good afternoon. So I caught the second half of your story about the $1 cinemas in Chicago, and I think we're roughly the same age. And when I was in college in the early to mid-'90s at University of Cincinnati, there was a mall that had $1 cinemas. And regardless of what the movie was, to get out of the Cincinnati humidity, because we were poor college students without air conditioning, we would just go to whatever. And I think there was a period of time where we saw like Aladdin 3 or 4 days in a row, and there's like all these. And I just remember one of the days in particular, just loving the air conditioning. And then there's these drunk college students singing along to all the Aladdin songs, which I can still probably cite today. But one of the days in particular, I made the bad decision of drinking a 64-ounce bottle of Mickey's before I went. And that was probably, and I didn't even know they existed. Does anyone know that those existed? I mean, it had a ring on it by the handle.
Right.
So you could like hoist it like
It's a jug, bro.
a jug band,
Yeah.
like a jug band
Right.
musician. So when you brought up the $1 cinemas in Chicago, it immediately conjured up these memories of my $1 cinema experiences in Cincinnati in the '90s. So
Had
thank
like
you for
a
that,
had like 3 X's on the bottle, like a cartoon
I wouldn't doubt
jug.
it. And Mickey's, it's kind of a it's a malt liquor. It's kind of potent. So I wasn't prepared for the ramifications. And at some point, I think they asked me to leave. So.
Yeah, of course. As a young man, Jake could handle all those calories in that 64-ounce Mickey's. That was the
Cheers.
top of his concern. Okay, thank you, Jake. It's Jake in Medina. I don't think they make the Mickey's 64-ounce anymore.
I've never heard of that. But
Maybe Old English, but I
the
don't.
puzzles. What are they called?
What's that?
Baramfiters.
What the what?
The little puzzles under the cap.
The Rebus?
Rebus.
Baramfiters. I like my puzzles and my baramfiters. A rebus.
Rebus.
Yes. Come on. How could you forget?
Because I'm too tired.
I assumed that you had been purchasing books of rebuses and practicing.
I'll win. Give me one right now. Give me a Baramfitous. I'll solve it.
Here's I got a whole book of baramfiters. Baramphatus.
I don't know. I'll stop in 20 seconds.
All right. Not to be confused, of course, with the British crime drama Inspector Rebus.
Ah.
Inspector Baramphatus. Hello, Baramphatus. I see you back again. Here to tell us what we're doing wrong?
Through a puzzle.
Through a puzzle. Open the cap, and you'll see the answer. All right, I get a break. Hey, Guardians baseball tonight. Boy, are you lucky. It's right around the corner down here. They're playing the Royals 2nd to 3 here at home, 7:10.